So you've been in the real estate, or not the real estate, the educational business for a long time. Can you give a little background on you and kind of your history so that people can kind of understand where you came from?
Yep. I started out originally, I was a teacher of students with special needs. I did that for about 10 years. And then I moved into administration. I got my master's in special ed from the U of M, and then my doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Minnesota. I was a dean of students in Shakopee at the high school level. I pretty much worked at the high school level for most of my career. When I taught some 6-12, but mostly high school. And after Shakopee, I moved to Prior Lake High School, where I was an assistant principal about 5 years. And then I moved to Minnetonka, where I was assistant principal for 6 years. And then now I'm in Orno as head principal, and I've been here since July.
Congratulations. I guess my first question for you as a principal is, how does a principal go from getting into the education system and then working their way up to being the head principal of Orno High School? How does that even happen?
I think, I've always felt like I never really had a big plan. I never wanted to go into administration. I didn't have it all laid out. I just sort of followed my heart and followed what was important to me. And after working with students with special needs, I found that I really had a passion for supporting kids who struggle, supporting kids who are maybe typically kind of outsiders and just maybe not the sort of typical high school plan works for them. So I kind of went that route, and it just sort of led me down that path, and just in continuing my education, just wanted to get in the world of administration to be able to make a difference and really pursue that, pursue making sure that every student is successful. I mean, it's really hard because schools for the most part are big and they're institutional and, they're bureaucratic and things, but my goal is to really find a way for every student to be successful, and not everyone fits the same mold. So finding a way to work with kids and work with families and make sure that they get what they need.
So you made your way to Orno High School, which is obviously, one of the top high schools in the state. Did you pick Orno, or did Orno kind of pick you?
I picked Orno. I'd like to think it was a mutual decision, but when I saw that opening, I was, I was very happy in my previous district. Minnetonka's a great school as well, and so I wasn't necessarily looking to leave, as making sure I found something that felt right for me. And as soon as I found out that they had this opening, I investigated and pursued it, and it has been a tremendous fit for me. I think that the district, the district personnel as well as the staff really share some of those same values that I have. And it is such a unique district and a unique community that it just has fit really well. And I've really enjoyed my time here.
When you say unique district, unique community, what does that mean to you exactly?
I think that we are very lucky in that we have a lot of opportunities for students. We have a, rigorous college prep curriculum. We have a lot of AP classes. We have a lot of activities, athletics, music, a lot of opportunities, but we're also still a small school, and, we're under 1,000, and it's a pretty small, tight-knit community. Our district is actually all on one campus, which is really unique. So our elementary school is a block down the road, and our district office and our middle school is across the street. So that's really nice for families, especially when they have kids in multiple buildings. It's nice for us because it creates opportunities that we might not have when there's distance. We have students, high school students, who go to the elementary school during recess to work with kids and mentor kids. We have high school kids that go across the street to the middle school and mentor. We have middle school kids who come across the street to take classes. It's just nice to kind of have everything in one spot. And then just in general, the community is still, there's a lot of sort of small town goodness to it.
Right.
Tight knit, very supportive community, very supportive parents. At the same time, though, we also offer a really highly, an excellent school district, which you don't often get. And when you're talking kind of small town, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. And I've really enjoyed that.
That sounds almost too good to be true. So the other question I think that parents, looking in or looking for the right place for their kids, one of the first questions that I received on the internet was, what are your founding principles? I mean, obviously as a leader of a school, you have to have certain principles that you're leading by. So what are those principles that you're leading by and that you're trying to instill within your school and your school district?
Well, I think, and when I'll talk in a more general level first of the district. We have 3 guiding goals for the district and as well as for the building, and that's character, scholarship, and relationships. And, we take all of those really seriously and put our work around it. We develop our building goals. It motivates us. It drives our work and really frames our work when we look at that. And that has aligned them with my personal goals of, scholarship, making sure that we have opportunities for students to, we have, 90% of our kids going to college. And
wow.
Yeah, and most of those are 4-year colleges, 2-year colleges. But so making sure that those students are challenged and that they've had experiences here at the high school level that will serve them well at the college. We want them to have as much of a college prep experience and or college level experience as they can. So but then also meeting those needs of kids who maybe, like I said, don't fit into that mold, who want other opportunities or need extra support in certain things. So that has been nice. Relationships, that's always been important to me, especially, kind of as I talked about my background a little bit. I know that students do better in school, achieve more, and are more successful academically, socially, emotionally when they have relationships and connections. So that's something that I work with every day as myself as a professional, but then I also work with my staff on that as well. And then character, we're a school with character education, and that's really important and really embedded into some of the things that we do, some of the courses we have, the opportunities we have, and our language that we talk to students with.
So a 90% rate of, 90% of the kids in high school or senior year move on to a 4-year degree or 2-year degree, but higher education. That's correct. That's really impressive.
Right.
Getting them prepared for that, I think one of the questions might be is, what if I'm not an AP student, or what if I'm just kind of in the middle of the road, or, I'm an entrepreneur, right? And I've met a lot of my friends who barely made it through high school, and most of them got into college and they just dropped out because maybe they think a little differently, or school isn't for them, or whatever it might be. You've probably heard it a million times, but how do you grab that person that's maybe in the middle of the road because academics is maybe a struggle, or it's not even an interest for them, and allow them to, move forward without completely just giving up? I think that's, something a lot of parents want to know.
Right. Well, and I think there's 2 parts to that. I think that that kind of intrinsic motivation, feeling like I belong, feeling like there's something here for me, that kind of comes in that social emotional realm, and that goes along with our school culture, with our school counselors, and kind of working with that and finding those opportunities. We do have a lot of opportunities that aren't sort of, I'd say, typical college prep path. We have some, we try to have as many different variety as we can in a school our size. We have some project lead the way classes, which are more, technology, engineering. We have art courses, computer science and things like that. We also have a partnership with Hennepin Technical, where we have students who spend half the day at Hennepin Tech. We bus them there, and so they have all sorts of different courses they can choose from there. There's everything from, cuisine, cooking, law enforcement, construction, auto body. I mean, they have a wide variety. So that kind of has some opportunities for kids who maybe we can't have those opportunities here in the building. We also try to, my goal also is to not close doors for students. So, a student might say as a sophomore or junior, I'm not going to college. It's not right for me. I'm not academically focused. And then it's about trying to help them find their passion and their interests so that, they aren't just automatically shutting that door on college, that maybe they don't go, but at least if they decide that they want to, or eventually they want to, that's still an option for them. So we try to help them as much as possible here to keep those doors open. And like I said, kind of look at different interests and different variety of things. It might be through a club. You know, we have a lot of student-led clubs. We have some curricular clubs, which are more kind of closely associated with our curriculum, but we also have student-led clubs, which are really just interest groups that students have. And a student can start a group if they have a faculty advisor, and then pulling kids with the same interests. And so that helps them, you know, find those passions and those interests and really look at a variety of things that they might be interested in or that they just want to try out. And that's really helpful as well.
Wow, that's cool. That's really cool. Another question I got when I did my internet poll there was security. Obviously, security is huge, you know, with everything that's going on in our society today. I mean, do you have certain things that you do, or let's say I'm a brand new parent, I'm coming and I'm looking at your school and I'm saying, you know, I'm really worried about this. Is this safe? I know anything can happen, but is this safe, or what is your protocol? Do you guys, I mean, what's your answer to that? I know it's kind of a tricky question.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly are working on that all the time and refining that. And, you know, one of the other nice things about being such a small community, our police department is right across the street, actually, from our district. It's all kind of on the same campus. So we have a really close partnership with them. We've worked with them on a number of things around safety and security. You know, we have, obviously, our building is locked during the day and people need to check in, and they have to go through a badge system where they put their name into the system and things like that. So we take it really seriously. And I feel like with our partnership with the local authorities, they've helped us out a lot in things like, you know, practicing lockdowns and security drills and things like that. We've worked with them. And so it's been nice, and I feel pretty confident about that. Like you said, you know, we never know, but I also feel like we're also prepared for the unknown as well as we can be. So
that's cool. Another thing I think that parents are really looking for is that, you know, it's easy if you have a student who gets straight A's and school is easy for them. So it's like, that's not really the questions I want to start asking, because those are the kids that thrive. And, you know, I have a niece like that. She's a genius and she's already taking like college level courses, and it blows my mind. But I want to focus on that kid that's kind of middle of the road or struggling a little bit more. Maybe he's coming from a different state and he's coming into your school and he doesn't know anybody. Do you have like leadership, or do you assign them to an older student who can kind of allow them to adapt and feel like they belong sooner than later? Because I think between bullying and all the things that go on with social media and the internet, I think a feeling of belonging is really important. Do you have stuff like that?
Yep, we do. And we have a couple different levels of that. We have a link crew that works with our freshmen when they come in, and that kind of helps with that transition. And also new students. So if they were to come in at the beginning of the year, they would kind of come in with that group and they would have a mentor assigned. So the link crew is senior level leaders, some juniors that are assigned to groups of freshmen. And then, you know, we have a day where we do orientation. They come in and do activities. And then throughout the year, the link crew continues to work with the freshmen. Every month, they do a meeting with them where they kind of go through a lesson on different, you know, I'd say social, emotional, academic skills. Like, for instance, this week, they're meeting with them tomorrow on decision-making skills and things like that. They're going to have them practice that, some of that. So they work with that. So that's a good way to get them kind of, you know, brought into our culture and to understand it, as well as to create that connection with older kids. And then the same thing happens with new kids. And if they're coming in the middle of the year, it's a little different. But they can be assigned with you know, it kind of depends what the student wants. Some students don't really want that, but otherwise, they can be assigned through their counselor. Their counselor works with them. And again, being in a smaller building, it's really easy for us to connect with those kids and develop those relationships early on. And our kids are really great. We have a really positive student culture, and I would say it's really one of inclusivity. And our kids are great about bringing new kids in, you know, making sure that everyone has a place to sit at lunch and things like that. And they do a good job with that. So it's a really positive student culture. I think that helps a lot.
Well, we're Minnesota nice, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing is that I wanted to reach out to you is, obviously, you know a lot about kids with special needs, and, you know, give us a little rundown about that. I mean, I have a daughter who has type 1 diabetes. That's something that's really near and dear to my heart. So I understand special needs for my daughter in schools from a healthcare perspective, especially. How do you address that? And I know there's so many different variables. I guess you got to give us a broad sweep on that, but how do you make a parent feel comfortable? How do you address that child's special needs? I mean, it could be autism, it could be diabetes, it could be anything, right? And I guess you're a professional. You've been doing this your whole life with special needs. So give us a little rundown of how you can make a parent feel comfortable about their son coming to your school with special needs.
Okay. Well, it would start when they first kind of reach out to us and enroll. We get, paperwork and things from the previous school and connect with them, whether student might have an IEP or a 504 or something like that. It might just be a concern a parent has. Maybe it's not as formalized as like a special ed eval or something like that. And then they would connect with the counselor. That's always kind of the first step. We do have a school social worker. We have a school psychologist. We have a gifted and talented counselor. And so there's kind of multiple levels. And then, of course, we have special ed teachers, and our counselors do 504s. They kind of run through them. So, I think it's all about as much information as we can have when that student starts. And we have counselors who do weekly check-ins with kids, depending on what their needs are. And then it goes all the way up to the, kind of other side of the spectrum where it might be multiple classes a day within the special ed setting. But it's really about finding, I think all of it, whether it's a special ed 504 or just maybe a student has some anxiety or depression or something else that's not formalized through instruction. It's about finding what fits their individual needs. And so, I think our counselors are really good about putting together plans and working with parents and students about what do you need, what's comfortable. I was with a student today who has a pass that they have some pretty high anxiety. They have a pass. They can leave class if they need to. And the counselor, they have a couple points in the counseling office that they can go to. And so it's just, it really depends on what that student needs. And I would say we are always willing to hear a parent and a student and find out what they need and what works for them and what's worked in the past. A lot of students come in with, well, this is what I used to do at my other school. It really helped if I could, do this or whatever it is. So we kind of start out with that before they even start and get them on a solid footing before even day one. So we have a plan for them.
Wow, it sounds like you guys have a lot of flexibility in what you guys do. That's pretty impressive, especially in a bigger school like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, school is small. It's in some, and it kind of depends where people are coming from. 1,000, we're about 1,000, we're under 1,000, but that's pretty big for a lot of cases. But then at the same time, I just came from a building that was 3,300. So
right.
It feels small. I would say that it feels, I don't know. It feel, again, maybe it's because it's a small town or I don't know, but it feels small. I see kids that I see every day. And so it's not, I don't know, but we do try to meet everyone's needs and have someone have some kind of a touch, no matter how big we are.
So I would say, again, like my daughter has type 1 diabetes. What's the communication? Obviously, do you pride yourself on the communication with the parent also and their special needs child? Because obviously there's good days and there's bad days. And as a parent, I can say this, you get a little nervous if you leave the house, you drop your kid off, gosh, she's not having a good day today, whatever it might be, and you're worried about her. Is the communication pretty open? Is it, how does that work as far as from the parent to the administrator that's helping?
I think it would depend on kind of who that student's sort of go-to person is. If it's a special ed case manager, they would probably be the primary contact with the parent. It might be a health plan, and then it'd be the nurse. But yeah, that's something that another one of my values that I talk a lot about with staff is that communication and making sure that, I send a weekly note to parents, just in general, not about individuals, obviously, but just because that's so important to me that parents know what's going on in the school, that I kind of give a rundown of what the week is. Sometimes I have topics that I talk about. So I think that communication is really important. It might be a counselor who's following up with that parent, but certainly, that's a goal of ours is always to make sure that those parents and that student feel very connected and communicated with regularly.
So here's going to be the trick question of the day. Right? We all know that nobody's perfect and no school is perfect, right? So, I mean, what is the one big thing that you're working on to try to make better within your district or your school?
I would say just continuing to look at those opportunities for all students. And I think, like I said before, knowing that not all students fit the mold, really finding those students who are falling through the cracks and finding opportunities for them. I think expanding those and always looking at maybe alternative kinds of plans or courses or things that we can do to interest them. I think we can always get better at that. Because as I said before, 1,000 kids, it's not big, but it's not small. And, that's hard with that many kids. So just making sure that every student is finding a path for themselves and making sure that we meet as many students' needs as possible, knowing that they're all very different.
Jock. I used to play 3 sports in high school.
Okay.
And I'm a big believer that sports is great for learning what life's going to deliver to you in the future, learning leadership skills, learning adversity, learning a never quit attitude, all those different things. What are your feelings, or what is your district feelings on athletics? Obviously, a lot of people, in the Minnesota area love the hockey, and athletics is a big thing. So what's your take on athletics in schools?
Well, I think that, I agree that there's a lot of, life lessons, a lot of importance in that. And I would kind of push to include activities in that as well, whether it's athletics, music, curricular activities, things like that. I would say anything a student can get involved in will be helpful for them, to practice all of those skills and to really just expand their interests and their horizon and give them those skills, whether it's soft skills like learning how to communicate with people and get along with people and be collegial and things like that, or else, academic skills or athletic skills. I think it's close to 88% of our students are involved in some kind of athletics or activities.
Wow.
Outside of school. Yeah. So it's, we have a lot of sports. We have a lot of different offerings. And then certainly beyond that, we have those clubs I talked about. If a student, a lot of kids are in multiple things. One of the things that's really great that we just opened like 2 weeks ago is we have a new Orno activity center.
Yeah.
It's great. And it's, it's a community space that is also shared by the school. It's really a unique partnership. It's attached to the school. It's open to the public. It's like a Lifetime, right? People can get memberships, work out. There's a track. There's all sorts of things. And then the school can use it. There's some classroom spaces. There's some, there's some lockers. There's some athletic spaces that we can use and some weight rooms and things like that. So it's a nice partnership. And, it's only been open a couple of weeks, but we're really excited about it. It's an incredible space. It's got, 5 courts on the inside. Wow. Yeah, and a running track up above, a running track down below. We can do indoor track meets. It's great. But I think it'll be easier or maybe more helpful to students to have it so close. Students get a reduced rate if they want a membership. And if they're in sports, they can use it while they're in that sport. So it'll be nice to have it attached. Kids can just walk over there after school or go there before school. They can work out. They can, be active and have that, easier to fit in as part of their life. So I think that's really important. I think the community obviously values it as well. And we're hoping that will bring the community to our school and kind of make that connection even stronger, that once they're on campus, then they will, know a little bit more about what we're doing and come to more events and theater and athletic events and things like that, and kind of help solidify that connection a little bit more.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of schools that can say they have that.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. We feel very lucky to have that.
So I want to get into the nitty gritty. I mean, you know this, the typical questions that you maybe have a parent come in, they're coming from out of town, they're sitting across from you, or they're sitting across from another teacher or whoever they might talk to if they wanted to experience Orno and come into the school for, let's say, experience the school for a day. You know, they're going to ask you about how many kids are graduating. Well, we know 90%. They're going to ask you about obviously extracurricular activities. They're going to ask you about, maybe your teachers. Do you have any teachers that, how do you hire your teachers? So maybe go into like the nitty gritty stuff that, parents really want to know about your school, and that might give them comfort in sending their kid there, or from an academic perspective or whatever. So this is kind of your chance to brag about your school.
Okay. Okay. Well, like I said, I think, it kind of all starts with that parent reaching out to us, whether it's they're enrolling or they're reaching out to, they're checking out multiple schools. We have them connect with a counselor right away. The student can come and tour the building. Parents can come. They can come meet with me. They can meet with the counselors and really answer any of those questions. And I think that's what the point where we can get into that individualized program and answer some of those questions. And, parents will have questions about, a student with an IEP or special ed needs, or about those academics. We offer 20 AP courses, and then we have, additional honors courses. We have college in the schools courses. And so depending on what their interests are, they might want to talk about certain subject areas like our art courses or our theater courses. And we have a lot of those. We have, AP computer science. And so kind of talking about what that individual student is interested in. They might even meet with a coach if they're involved in a sport. We had a family this fall that I met. So I just came last summer, so I wasn't here in the spring, but we had a family who came last fall, and they're from out of state, the other side of the country, and their student wanted to play football, and they were looking at all the kind of local schools and the private schools and kind of the big name public and things like that. And they came in and they were able to sit down with our football coach. And the mom said, after that, we went back to our hotel and we had all these other schools still. And the student just said, that's it. I know this is the place. And, they are really happy here just because, whatever that student is interested in, we want them to get as much information about that as possible. And I think that, our counselors are good at helping out with that, whether it's, again, like if they're interested in theater, we can have them meet with our theater teacher, or look around at it, look at the spaces. If they're interested in sports, look at our facilities and meet our coaches and things like that. So it's really about empowering parents, I think, and students with as much information as possible, and also getting that feel. So there's kind of like all this information about our programs that we can give you and our test scores, and it's really a school of academic excellence. I can say that without a doubt. But then also that feel. So there's that other side of it. There's the academics, and then there's kind of the school culture, and how do we get them to experience that and feel positive about that? And is it just, meeting with certain people or walking around the halls and, whatever that might be? We want to make that happen for that parent and that student, because we want it to be the right fit for them. We aren't about just getting kids here so we can get as many kids here as possible. It's about, we want kids to really feel good about the choices they're making. And so to do that, they really need as much information as possible.
Right. When it comes to teachers, I mean, is it pretty rigorous to become a teacher at Orno? I mean, because I've never found really anything about the process of, getting teachers or bringing on the right teachers. I mean, obviously, that has to be a process. How do you know, or how do you find the best teachers to be at Orno?
Well, I think, one of the good things about Orno is that we're a really, like I said, we have a good reputation. It's academic excellence, and our students are very academically focused. So I think that helps attract a large number of teachers. They're interested in teaching in a place like this. It's a good environment for them as a teacher, as an employee. The students are really positive. Their colleagues, our teachers in this building are so committed, and they're so focused on supporting students, and they go above and beyond every day. So people want to work here. So it's about sort of attracting people. And then once we get into that process, it's about finding, again, that right fit. And there are a lot of layers in that kind of recruitment, hiring, onboarding process. And it's, they'll meet with me, they'll meet with every teacher who comes in this district meets with our superintendent, which is, I think, very unique. I don't know other districts that do that. She sits down with every teacher before they start, before they're officially hired. She's kind of the last say for all of them. They'll meet with me, with some teachers. We try to have them come in and meet with a committee of teachers. I have an associate principal that meets with oncoming teachers as well, and then as well as our HR. So we try to get as many people involved in the process to really make sure that it's a holistic approach where we have, people at all levels reviewing these candidates. There's a couple different kinds of interview techniques we do. There's some kind of scripted research-based questions that we have them go through. We also have them go through, like I said, more of a committee where they get a talk with us, and then some other meetings as well might happen, and obviously, references and looking at their past experiences, whether it's in school or on the job. So I'd say it's a very rigorous process. We know that these are huge decisions, and we, sometimes especially with new teachers, it might take a year or two to kind of, get into the swing of things. But we also know that we can't afford to have a teacher who's not excellent for even one day, because these are our students, and they're going to walk in on day one, and they need and they deserve an excellent teacher. So it's really, I consider that one of the most important parts of my job. I think, working with students and developing a positive student culture, but primarily is getting the right people in the building, and because those are the people in front of the students every day. So I take that as really the number one part of my job is making sure that I hire the best teachers.
That's awesome. Okay, so this is going to be my last little rant. I'm an entrepreneur, like, I have multiple businesses, right? I'm a huge believer that, you have so much freedom in the world with the internet. I feel like entrepreneurship, when I was going to school, I graduated in 96, it was like a word out there, but nobody really knew what it meant. Whereas today, I feel like with the internet, young kids, entrepreneurship is like something they aspire to do. Would you agree with that or not agree with that?
I think so. I think, like you said, I think the world is smaller now than when we were in school. And I think that, kids have so much at their fingertips. They have so much that they can do. And, there's really nothing stopping them. And I think that, our goal in schools is to prepare them not only for, we always say college and career ready, because whether you're going to college and then a career or just a career or, entrepreneur, you never know what's going to happen. So it's about those more generalized skills. It's not about, specific curriculum and things like that. It's about giving them the skills to be able to problem solve, to make decisions, to, work with other people, to, all of those things that come into that. I think that's our role, and that's really important that we give kids that those experiences while they're in high school.
Well, and it's interesting that you say skills, because I read an article by somebody wrote it on the CEO of IBM, and the CEO said that we're not necessarily looking for someone with a 4-year degree or a master's degree. We're looking for someone with the right skills. And I think for a leader of a company that's been around for over 100 years and is that big, to say that it's not necessarily the degree, it's the skills that you can bring to our company says a lot about the shift. Because when I was going to school in high school and even in college, it was, well, if I get a master's degree, I'm going to get a better job. And it was kind of proven that if I did get a master's degree, I probably would get a better job. But I think that you can attest to this as well as anybody. The young adults that are coming out with great Ivy League 4-year degrees, or coming out and getting a 4-year and then also getting a master's degree, they're not necessarily just falling into jobs like maybe it was that way before. It's more of like, and then the other thing to that is you're seeing kids that pick up a computer and it's just a natural gift. Maybe they're not good in school, but they're great on a computer. And all of a sudden they're getting these jobs and they don't even have a college degree. And so I think it's a confusing world out there for someone that maybe has that 4-year degree or that master's degree. And they're going, well, I did everything I was told, but yet this kid over here doesn't even have a degree and he got the job over me. I just want your 2 cents on where you think the world's kind of going with that, because if I was a young adult out there, it's kind of confusing.
Right. Well, and they say that really we're preparing kids for jobs that we don't even know exist right now, with how fast technology is moving, with how the like I said, the world is shrinking globally, so I think it is those skills. It's being able to, like I said, problem solve, decision making, but also things like initiative, resilience and grit, and being able to persevere. And those are also the skills that we're teaching them in school, and we're doing it through curriculum. We're doing it through sports and activities and things like that as well. But that's going to serve them just as well as learning the maybe more specifics about curriculum and things like that, because that'll serve them well in college. That'll serve them well in their relationships. That'll serve them well in a job or an internship or things like that. And I think kids know that. And I think also because of the more alternative paths that I think are unique in the world today, I think that kids aren't, they aren't going to just kind of blindly, like you said, just like, well, I'm going to get a degree just because I have to get a degree. They know what they want, and they know that they aren't just going to do something just for the sake of doing it. And I think that's great, that what they need is their initiative to go out and pursue their passions and make something work for them. And it's our job to be able to help them gain those skills and practice those skills while they're here.
Amy, this has been an awesome interview. I'm super excited that you came on. I think we talked on some really cool topics.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you want to throw out there that maybe I didn't cover, but you want a parent to know about, whether it's you or the school or Orno as a community?
I think that, as someone who's fairly new here myself, one thing that I would say to parents, we know that you're giving us your pride and joy. You're giving us your most precious object. And I would say that this district has a very strong sense of heart and soul and purpose, and they align those. And I can say that the people at every level really keep those things in mind when they're making decisions, when they're creating programs and making decisions about kids. And it's a really unique situation. I just feel like we have a very strong district and strong staff that, like I said, are really student focused and focus on supporting students number one, and they lead with their heart. And I think that's really special.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Amy, I'm excited because we will be sharing this with the world through social media, which is where the world is going, right? I mean, everything's about social media and the internet. So I'm really honored that you let us have this interview, and I'm excited for you. I want to share the feedback that we get from your interview, because I think it's important. It's a two-way street, right? That's the beauty of the internet. It's like you put something out, but then hopefully we get something back, because I think great feedback allows you to do better at your job. So I'm excited to get this out there and give you the feedback that we get from other parents and other people that see your interview, because I think you did a great job.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'll talk about Orno all day, right?